Celiac disease is a genetic autoimmune disease that causes damage to the small intestines when gluten is eaten. It affects about 1 in 100 people worldwide. Celiac disease causes the body to have an inflammatory response to gluten, a protein found in wheat, barley, rye, and some oats. In the small intestines, there are hair-like protrusions called villi that allow for the absorption of nutrients into the body. In the case of celiac disease, when food containing gluten is eaten, the body attacks a substance called gliadin, which is found in gluten. There is then an inflammatory response that damages the cells of the villi lining in the small intestine. This damage causes the villi to flatten and no longer efficiently absorb nutrients. Common symptoms of celiac disease include chronic diarrhea, severe abdominal pain, unhealthy weight loss, muscle pain and cramps, failure to thrive in infants, and delayed mental and physical growth in children. As there is no cure for celiac disease, the only relief from these symptoms is constant avoidance of gluten-containing food. As a child who grew up with celiac disease, 21-year-old Zach Eichten faces many complications regarding his necessary diet, such as exclusion and having to answer difficult questions.
I was 5 years old when I was diagnosed with celiac disease. The thing that you have to realize about growing up with something different is that people are going to treat you differently. For me, it was always sort of a bummer whenever people would have like pizza parties or bring snacks into class. I remember that being a disappointment a lot of the time because I couldn't participate. I think biggest challenge was just always having to be, I think it's a two-part. First part is always having to be vigilant of what I was eating to make sure I didn't get sick. And secondly, answering questions about it with people that are new. Just like, are you sure you can eat that? Yeah, I'm sure I can eat that. I've been doing this for a while. I think those are the two biggest challenges. I think in the future it's going to be about the same. I think we've sort of reached a plateau where things that can be made gluten-free are being made gluten-free. Things that obviously can't be made gluten-free aren't being made gluten-free. So I think we sort of hit a level where it's going to stay pretty much the same for the foreseeable future.
Parents give a new perspective on the disease as well. Zach's parents, Brent and Monica Eichten, give insight into the life of a parent raising a child with celiac disease.
Well, Zach was diagnosed first when he was 5, but prior to that he was sick all the time. No matter what he ate, he got sick. He would self-limit. He said he didn't want a sandwich, didn't want pizza, didn't want macaroni and cheese, because he knew it made him feel sick. In the beginning, it was having to read every single label because they would sometimes hide gluten in modified starch. Then you would have to call the company to ask them what was their source of their starch, because it can be rice-based, wheat-based, corn. So reading every label was a big deal, and calling manufacturers. Now with the labeling laws, they, for the most part, will put on it contains milk, wheat, soy in big letters, so you don't have to read through every fine print, because they do have to label wheat. They don't always label for the other sources of gluten, which is also barley and rye.
Typical experience eating out is probably looking for restaurants or chain restaurants that you know are gluten-free friendly or that have a gluten-free menu. When you get to the restaurant, it's always asking about gluten-free options or maybe a special gluten-free menu. And it's also talking to the server to make sure that they know it's an allergy and not just a preference, so that they use extra care while they're eating out. Gluten-free doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting a better diet. There's gluten-free junk food as well. So you really need to understand what the nutritional value is of the food you're eating. And oftentimes if you're eating gluten-free, you may be missing out on other certain nutrients, minerals, and things like that you need to have. So gluten-free can be more healthy, but you really need to understand what you're eating.
if you have celiac disease, you have celiac disease. Just because you don't have a reaction doesn't mean you don't have severe celiac disease. You still have it, you're just not having the reaction. So to have people just say they're gluten-free is not always a benefit to a celiac person, I don't think. I mean, I remember, or I know it's when people are like, oh, too bad you can't eat this donut that I'm eating right in front of your face. Well, yeah, that stinks.
Yeah. Birthday parties, birthdays when
Christmas.
people bring cupcakes or cake to a soccer game. Those are some of the times that were, pretty tough on the kids.
Michelle Fromey is not only the mother of a celiac child, but a co-founder of a celiac support group as well.
So, ROCK stands for Raising Our Celiac Kids, and it is an adult, it is an adult support group for families, parents, with some specific, children-focused activities. But basically, a support group for adults and families, parents, just trying to come together to understand and support each other for newly diagnosed parents, but also just that maintaining that support to know who's got a great recipe, what's a new restaurant, what's a new brand new, what changes are being made, legislative wise or in Congress in regards to foods. And so basically it's just the big support group that's in the Twin City area to help families and parents support their family. It's definitely a big challenge. Definitely a big challenge. I think that, the other big challenge is that you kind of always have to be 24 hours ahead of everybody. So, you kind of have to plan it out. You kind of got to know what someone's serving. It's super time consuming. There used to be grocery guides, and so we would shop with grocery guides, and I know your mom did this as well. So you would go to Cub Foods and you'd take your grocery guide, and what would take you normally a 45-minute shopping trip would turn into 2.5 hours, because you'd have to read and read every single label, try to see what was in a book. So it was a lot of work.